The floorboard creaked in the hallway at 2:17 a.m., just loud enough to wake Mallory Craig from her fitful sleep. She held her breath, listening. Another creak, this time closer to her bedroom door. The handle didn't turn this time, not like last Tuesday, but she heard the unmistakable sound of breathing on the other side. Mallory reached for her phone, texting with trembling fingers. He was in the kitchen again. I didn't hear him come up. I locked my door this time. Her best friend Tasha wouldn't see the message until morning. By then, it would be too late. Detective Marcus Reed stood in the center of the kitchen, hands in his pockets to avoid contaminating the scene. August heat seeped through the windows despite the air conditioning, making the copper scent of blood more pungent. Crime scene technicians worked methodically around him, photographing, collecting, documenting the death of 26-year-old Mallory Craig. Single stab wound to the chest, the medical examiner said, looking up from her preliminary examination. Clean entry, penetrated the heart. Death would have been relatively quick. Reed nodded. Time of death? Roughly between 2 and 4 a.m., based on body temperature and lividity. Reed's gaze traveled from the victim to the kitchen counter where her wallet and phone sat untouched. Not a robbery gone wrong, then. His eyes followed a thin trail of blood droplets across the linoleum floor to where they abruptly stopped. The killer stood here, watched her die, then carefully stepped back, he said, more to himself than anyone else. Officer Perez approached, notebook in hand. Neighbors didn't hear anything. The tenant downstairs is the one who called it in around 8 a.m. Says he was out getting groceries, came back to find police already here. Tenant. Evan Reese, 38. Been renting the basement apartment for about 4 months. He's outside now. Reed nodded. Let's talk to him. Evan Reese sat on the front porch steps, head in his hands. He looked up as Reed approached. Average height, thin build, faded jeans and a wrinkled button-up. 3-day stubble. Eyes bloodshot either from crying or lack of sleep. Mr. Reese, Reed began, I'm Detective Reed. I understand you rent from Ms. Craig. Yes. The basement apartment. His voice was soft, almost inaudible. I can't believe this happened. Is she really? I'm afraid so. When did you last see Ms. Craig alive? Evan rubbed his face. Yesterday afternoon. I was heading out around 5, she was watering plants on the porch. We said hello, that was it. And where were you between 2 and 4 a.m.? Sleeping. I take medication that knocks me out. Then I woke up early, realized I needed groceries. I left around 7:30. Reed made a note. We'll need to verify that. Do you have the receipt? I didn't actually buy anything. The store I usually go to was closed for some reason, so I drove around looking for another one, then came back. That's convenient, Reed said, keeping his tone neutral. Evan's eyes darted toward the street. I know how it sounds. How would you describe your relationship with Ms. Craig? Professional. Cordial. She was a good landlord. Kept to herself mostly. We didn't socialize. Reed studied him. Any visitors? Arguments? Problems with the arrangement? No. A pause. Well, she seemed tense lately. Jumpy. But she never said why. An officer approached with a tablet. Detective, we've got something from the neighbor's security camera. Reed excused himself and took the tablet. The footage showed the front of the house from across the street. Timestamp, 7:15 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. No one entered or left. Mr. Reese, Reed called, walking back. You said you left at 7:30. Color drained from Evan's face. Yes, maybe it was earlier. I don't wear a watch. We have footage of the front entrance. No one left this morning until officers arrived. Evan stood abruptly. I went out the back. There's a path through the yard to the alley where I park. Reed's expression hardened. We'll need to search your apartment, Mr. Reese. Don't you need a warrant? We can get one. Or you can consent now and save us all some time. Evan hesitated, then nodded. Fine. I have nothing to hide. But the basement told a different story. While initially appearing neat and Spartan, the search team found a sweatshirt stuffed between the mattress and box spring. Dark stains marked the sleeve. Blood, the technician confirmed after a preliminary test. Evan's face contorted. That's not, I can explain. We're taking you in for questioning, Reed said, nodding to the officers standing by. At the station, Evan sat in the interrogation room for 2 hours before Reed entered with a folder. The detective placed photos from the crime scene on the table one by one. Mallory Craig. 26 years old. Remote job in digital marketing. No enemies according to friends and family. Nothing stolen. No romantic entanglements gone sour. Reed leaned forward. Just a landlord and her tenant. I didn't kill her, Evan whispered. Your sweatshirt has her blood on it. It's not what you think. Then explain. Evan took a shaky breath. I heard a crash last night. Went upstairs to check. The kitchen light was on. Mallory was on the floor. There was blood everywhere. I tried to help her, but she was already. His voice broke. I panicked. I thought you'd suspect me. So I cleaned up, went back downstairs, pretended I found her this morning. You expect me to believe she accidentally fell on a knife that penetrated her heart at a perfect angle? She slipped. The floor was wet, maybe from her watering the plants earlier. She was holding a knife. When she fell, it. Reed slid another photo across the table. The medical examiner found no injuries consistent with a fall. No bruising, no head trauma. Just a single, forceful stab wound. Deliberate. Evan's story began to crumble under Reed's questioning. The detective circled back to inconsistencies, pressed on details, until finally, he placed one more document on the table. We ran your fingerprints, Mr. Reese. Interesting results. Evan stared at the paper, saying nothing. You're not Evan Reese, are you? Your real name is Derek Maddox. Arrested in 2004 in Washington state for stalking a female coworker. Charges dropped when she declined to testify. The man who called himself Evan closed his eyes. That was different. A misunderstanding. Was Mallory a misunderstanding too? No. I changed my name to start over. Bad history follows you. I needed a clean slate. Reed pressed. Did Mallory discover who you really were? No. She knew nothing about me. I kept to myself. But the text message to her friend suggested otherwise. Mallory had been afraid. The man who'd been quietly living beneath her feet had made her uneasy enough to lock her bedroom door. Over the next 2 days, the investigation deepened. Forensics collected more evidence from the house. Reed interviewed Mallory's friends, family, co-workers. A consistent picture emerged of a bright, cautious young woman who'd been growing increasingly anxious about her basement tenant. She said he would appear in the house sometimes. Tasha Reynolds, Mallory's best friend, told Reed over coffee at a local diner. Like, she'd be in the kitchen and suddenly he'd be there, no sound of him coming up the stairs. It freaked her out. Did she confront him about it? Tasha shook her head. She needed the rental income. Said she'd just be more careful, lock the connecting door. Connecting door? Between the main house and basement. It's in the hallway. She kept it locked, but... Tasha's voice trailed off. Reed and the forensic team returned to the house that afternoon. In the hallway closet, beneath a stack of towels and a laundry basket, they found what they were looking for, a small area rug covering a section of flooring that didn't match the rest. "It's been cut," the technician said, pulling back the carpet to reveal a rectangular opening. "Recently too. Clean edges." Reed stared down into the darkness of the basement. He made himself another entrance. In the basement, behind a set of storage shelves, they discovered a crawlspace. Inside, zip ties, duct tape, and a folded blanket. The blanket smelled of chloroform. Derek Maddox was formally charged with first-degree murder. The evidence seemed damning: the blood-stained sweatshirt, the hidden access point, the stalking history, the items in the crawlspace. But during the pre-trial preparation, the defense filed a motion to suppress. The search warrant was improperly executed, Derek's lawyer argued before the judge. Officers searched the basement before the warrant specifically covering that area was signed. Everything they found is fruit of the poisonous tree. The prosecutor argued vehemently against the motion, but in the end, the judge ruled the blood evidence inadmissible, a critical blow to the case. Without the sweatshirt, the prosecution's case weakened significantly. The hole in the floor proved nothing by itself. The crawlspace items were suspicious but not conclusive. The history of stalking was prejudicial and limited in admissibility. 2 months later, Derek Maddox walked free. "We'll appeal the ruling," Assistant District Attorney Elena Cortez assured Mallory's parents after the dismissal. "We'll bring new charges if we find more evidence." But Derek disappeared the next day. His court-mandated address, a halfway house in the next county, reported him missing. His few possessions were gone. The burner phone he'd been using was found in a trash can 2 miles away. The case went cold. 6 months later, Detective Reed sat at his desk reviewing old case files when his phone rang. "Reed. Detective, this is Sheriff Dawson from Lincoln County, Nevada. We've got a John Doe matching the description of your fugitive, Derek Maddox." Reed's heart raced. "You found him?" "Not exactly. Remains were discovered in an abandoned mining shaft. Male, approximate age 35 to 45. No ID, but physical characteristics match. Been there about 4 months by our estimate. Cause of death: blunt force trauma to the skull. Multiple fractures. Someone wanted him very dead." Reed frowned. "Any suspects?" "Nothing concrete, but there's a boarding house about 3 miles from the shaft where a man matching Maddox's description stayed for a few weeks. Used the name Martin Wells. The owner said he kept to himself, paid cash. Then one day, he just didn't come back." "Any other guests at the time?" "A few regulars. One woman who stayed for just 3 nights. Checked in the day before Maddox disappeared. Paid cash, left no forwarding information." Reed's instincts prickled. "Description: mid-20s, dark hair cut short. Called herself Jane. That's all we've got." After hanging up, Reed pulled up Mallory Craig's social media profile and scrolled through her friends list. The face jumped out at him immediately: Tasha Reynolds. Dark hair. Mid-20s. In her profile photo, her arm was draped over Mallory's shoulders, both women smiling broadly. He clicked into her profile. Recent posts showed her traveling. Nevada. Utah. Colorado. Starting a new life, she wrote. Finding peace. Reed leaned back in his chair, contemplating. When he'd interviewed Tasha, she'd been devastated, emotional, but controlled. She'd known details about Mallory's fears, about the house. She'd been the recipient of that final, haunting text message. What else had Mallory shared with her best friend over the years? What skills or knowledge? Reed recalled something from Mallory's employment history: 3 years working at a camping supply store while in college. Outdoor skills. Map reading. Perhaps survival training. But this was speculation, not evidence. Nothing that would stand up in court. Reed closed the file. The case of the Tenant would remain officially open, yet another entry in the database of unsolved homicides. Derek Maddox would continue to exist as a footnote in true crime forums, a cautionary tale about strangers living under your roof. The current owners of Mallory's house had sealed off the basement apartment completely, walling up the door at the bottom of the stairs. They refused to go near it, claiming they heard noises at night, creaking floorboards, footsteps with no source. Local teenagers dared each other to stand by the exterior basement windows after dark, telling stories of a pale face that sometimes appeared in the glass. But Detective Reed wondered about a different ghost, one possibly still traveling the back roads of America, moving from town to town, perhaps with a new name and a short haircut. Carrying the weight of justice and vengeance. Looking for someone else who had slipped through the cracks. One who had taken on the burden of balancing the scales when the system had failed. Every now and then, Reed received reports of men with histories of stalking or violence against women who disappeared without explanation. Different states. Different circumstances. No evidence, no witnesses. Just absence. He kept a map in his desk drawer with pins marking each location. The pattern, if there was one, remained elusive. But sometimes, late at night when the station was quiet, he would add another pin and step back, wondering if somewhere in that constellation of justice and retribution, a young woman with dark hair was planning her next move. And despite himself, despite his oath to uphold the law above all, Reed couldn't help but feel a measure of rough satisfaction. The basement apartment in Ridgefield Hills remained empty. Mallory's parents had moved away, unable to bear the proximity to their daughter's final moments. Evan Reese, or Derek Maddox, existed now only in police databases and true crime discussions. His real fate a mystery that might never be solved. But somewhere, in the darkness between legal justice and moral retribution, something moved. Watched. Waited. The scales, it seemed, would balance themselves one way or another.